All right, hold on. All right, so we'll start the meeting. Pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so I think the first order of business is to roll call, maybe?
Or
I've got a copy from Jake.
I don't have a copy of the agenda either.
Oh. Did we not?
do you need one?
Yeah,
Please.
yeah.
Well, in the meantime, we could go ahead and do roll calls for sure, so. So, who do we have present?
Joshua Harris here.
Meg Quinn, present. Lori Beal, present.
Elizabeth? And Matt?
Matt Mitchell, present.
So we're missing Maya. And I did receive an email that I forwarded to Jake, Bruce Roach is going to resign because he doesn't have enough time here in Angel Fire.
Okay.
So he was a non-voting member, so it'll be up to the council if you want to add anybody new or not.
At this point, you guys have not had quorum issues. His departure doesn't change that, so we also are in the middle of a whole bunch of work, so I don't see any reason to add at this point unless there's somebody just chomping at the bit to be on this committee.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't, nobody's talked to me about it, and anybody else, anybody talked to anybody else about it? Okay, so then I think the next thing is to approve the minutes, so everybody received the minutes via email, so, someone will make a motion to approve. Okay, in a second.
Second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all right, that's approved. I think we had two sets, so. One was a work session, one was a meeting, I think, so we'll do the work session one next, so motion to approve the work section, motion.
Second to approve the work session.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so I think the next thing on our agenda was an update from council, so we can go ahead, right? Is that correct?
Actually, item A was or the employer results, but either way you want to do this, whatever order works for you, so.
Why don't we talk about the employer results then, since that's next?
Matt might need to get to a football game too, so.
What? Okay. Okay, so Matt, you wanna?
Sure. So, and I apologize. Elizabeth pointed out that I had was counting you all and some of your answers. I should have paid a little bit closer attention to the 300 or one of them was like 800 employees. But I think the bottom 5 are you
Hey,
all.
Matt, would you
Yeah.
mind, can you share screen? We have a couple people in attendance this evening, so they
Oh,
can
sure,
see
sure,
the
sure.
results.
Let's see here.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. Okay, can you see it now?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay, so I believe these bottom 5 are you all. And everything above that is actually legit.
Okay.
So we can take a closer look and see if that's not true, but I think that's basically true. And we can go through in detail some of the different, the mix of part-time and full-time. But I think for our purposes, I just did a quick and dirty, just added up totals. And then in the cases where they're yeses are recorded as 1 and nos are recorded as 0. So just did some counts. And I think the most important data is how many of your employees are unable to find housing, and the estimate is about 50. Now,
and that's taking off those lines, the test.
that's right. That's right.
Okay,
Now,
okay.
it's not a giant, response rate. It's 17 people. So, Elizabeth, you had suggested that we might want to send this out again. I think that is very good. And
As a reminder.
yeah, just to see if we can get some more.
Sorry, so there is a name of business, are there any, so I see Brett on there, are there any businesses that we would have been looking for that are not on here yet?
Good question. Okay, so here's what we have. We have Par Painting, Resort Properties of Angel Fire, Double Black Design, Purple Sage Studio, Coldwell Banker, looks like new LLC, Bluebird Mountain Sports, Timber Ridge Electrical, NSI Custom Building, Snowblaze Ski Shop, Taddy's, Fire Department, Village of Angel Fire. Yeah, so the
So,
grocery
sorry.
store is not there. Neither of the dollar stores are there.
Or Alpine, neither of the dollar stores.
Yep.
That line that says fire department, if you'll see, it's got my name on it. That was the first test that I did. I actually did
Oh.
2 tests, one before and then one when you and Brett and I were sitting together.
Okay.
No restaurants, no Lowe's, like Toddy's, but.
Toddy, but
Okay.
not the others.
I mean, the resort is not there either, but I don't know if they would have answered it or not. I mean, they kind of make arrangements for their employees most of the
Yeah,
time.
we've got a whole housing.
Yeah. So,
So, I will volunteer to talk to Alpine and True Value.
okay,
I have some other committee business that I'm working on anyways, that I'm gonna need to be in touch with them on
mhm.
for Dark Sky. I guess if we could ask Maya, do we send it to the right person? Can she fill it out? Cause what we're looking for is any employer that's gonna shift these numbers significantly, right?
Right.
So
So yeah, we could ask Maya or Megan.
Yeah, well, we specifically have, Sophia Sanchez, who, has employee housing, so,
Okay.
but I would, run that through Maya. And
Okay.
she can get that to her. That
Okay.
would be the right channel.
So I mean, I can send Maya an email.
Yeah.
And then what about the grocery store? I know they're elsewhere, but if there's a manager.
Well, let me think on that one a little bit,
Okay.
because same thing, Dark Sky Committee is looking for feedback from our draft ordinance on that from the business owners in town.
Okay,
So either myself or BJ may be asking them that question, so in
Okay.
parallel, we could say, hey, can you review this draft ordinance, and oh, by the way, fill out this survey, cause it will help us in our housing endeavors.
okay.
So, are any other, so
Some of the
resort-
a few of the restaurants, like
Mhm.
Makuna maybe.
Yeah, we can
Um,
do, Angel Fire as well.
yeah,
as
Angel Fire.
Training.
How many restaurants does Yasmin own?
Well, yeah, if Yasmin could respond,
Yeah.
that would be a large chunk of it.
Free and.
Does somebody know Yasmin?
But she owns 4 places.
Just talking to her
Yeah.
husband the other day.
I know her, but I don't have her phone number, so,
I don't know her.
I mean,
don't
I'll
think-
see her husband if it's the person I'm thinking of.
okay.
She owns Rapona.
Yeah.
Oven Grove,
Yeah.
the bakery,
Yeah, I'll get with them on that
Yeah.
one.
Okay,
okay.
So would it be easier, guys, for this?
And then-
Do you have it in your inbox? I think it might be easier for you to actually, when you try to reach out to them, if you have their emails, to forward it straight to them.
the link, yeah, we can do that, but we don't have their email addresses because that was handled by, Brett.
Well, so it may be that the email address they gave us for their business license is not their primary email address or a different employee, and so
Mhm.
the question we're trying to go to all these businesses is, hey, this was your email that they sent this survey to.
Mhm.
Was it the wrong address? And if so, we'd really like your response. Can you give us where
A
this
new email
survey
address.
needs to go
Okay.
to?
And then, yeah, we could take if you could send us the actual link, just as a reminder again, then anybody that we talk to, we can forward that on to them. Even if it's just a text and get it to them, that'd be fine too, if they don't want to give us their email address or whatever. Because it will all come back there to come the results, yeah,
Mhm.
okay. So,
Um,
you said how many, so if we look at, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I can work with Brett to look at those emails and for the ones that we've identified here.
Okay.
And you can send a targeted one specifically to them.
Okay, and do that reminder, I think just a reminder, if you haven't already filled it out, please do so and give them like a week, I think would be good.
Okay.
I think that'd be good. What was I gonna say? I forget. We talked about the reminder. So is there any significant results there that we've gotten so far? You said there was like 119 positions that are people that wanted housing or
That
something like
couldn't
that?
find it.
Yeah, let me go back to it. Hold on to share it with you again. Sorry. Can find it. Can you all see it?
Not quite yet. There you
There
go.
it is.
Okay. So if yes, how many of your employees are unable to find afford housing? So that's 47. 14 out of 16 said, have you struggled to hire employees due to lack of housing?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
How many employees do you anticipate hiring? 66? That's a,
That's a big number. Can
That's a
you
big number.
Scroll up through that column a little.
yeah. 15 is, looks like new LLC. What is that? I wonder if that's,
That's a cleaning business. I've seen them advertising on Facebook.
Okay,
so 15 employees is actually not crazy for cleaning if it's like, maybe one person is only doing it a couple hours a week. But that's big. 12 is for the city or the village.
okay,
And yeah,
and then the bottom, the big number that was test.
yeah, those are tests.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
So. And then I guess we'll just have to, I think, spend more time. I'll just read through the comments and then maybe we can do after we'll get another pass through, try to get some more results. And then we'll kind of do a summary of key highlights, that kind of thing. To take away, I just, like I said before, I want to make sure that what we surveyed was actionable.
Yep.
So, that gives us a sense of how many units we might want to create. I know we were talking about 10 at first. Maybe we target 20, I don't know, depending on what the budget is, I suppose.
Well, I'll get to some of that in our council
Okay,
update.
all
So
right, so,
I think what you have here is great. I think we need to fill in some of the big employer holes that we know are not on here yet.
Okay.
Because ultimately what's gonna happen is this is gonna get presented at council meeting as a committee update.
mhm,
As here's, maybe not the perfect, we haven't got responses from everybody, we've got most of the responses, and here's what those numbers look like. So let's take some time to get more responses before we have, you or myself or somebody else come present the findings from council.
okay,
So I did wanna ask, and my memory, I just wanna make sure, so we have sent out the employer survey.
yes,
I believe this committee has approved the employee survey, but we haven't actually sent it to council to go out yet. And the reason I remember that is we were gonna have, at the time, Caristo do the flyer with the
Right,
QR code.
right.
And then we got through oh, no, Caristo's not doing the marketing. Well, now that RFP process is done and that's settled again.
okay,
So I think we're ready to go out with the employee survey in the form of the flyer, posted up everywhere, distributed on social media, on the village website. But correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we've actually sent it all the way up to council yet, unless somebody remembers differently.
I
thought we.
I thought we did.
I
we've sent it off.
thought you did.
I thought I think we did, we need to check minutes.
sent back out to council?
Okay.
Yeah, we did a test and I think there was a little bit of feedback. I don't know if we've done another test. But we need to do another test just to make sure that what we've got is ready to go.
Okay,
And then the last you're right. We started, we were gonna do flyer with Carista.
Yep.
Then
Greg Ralph was gonna do
Then
it.
Greg Ralph was gonna do visitor center, and then now we're back with Christo?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
So I think that's the next thing we need is we need to have them prep the flyer
Okay,
so we can get the distribution of the employee survey out wide.
okay,
Yeah, and I mean, I've got 3 contractors that weren't on their list right now.
okay.
So I mean, it's an agenda item.
Mhm.
So I think we can vote on that to go up to, because we're gonna be asking to spend money again.
Okay,
I think it was like less than $1,000, you know, to make the flyer, to get it on social media, to do all the stuff that we need
Right.
done with this. So
Okay.
that would be my recommendation is if we haven't asked council to spend money, let's go ahead and do that.
okay,
And get it at one of the next.
I mean, we were approved it when Krista was doing it before. I believe we've already asked for that spending, and because it was such a dollar amount,
It's possible, but I think, when
With
we
the RFP.
approved that, we didn't have we had a marketing company and then we didn't. And the way this is set up is the RFP now has awarded them the contract that's
Right.
going through. Now we need to load some work into it,
Okay.
right? That's how that's worked. Just like if Kurt was doing road design,
Mhm.
we would have to go to Dennis Engineering and say, okay, you're our on-call engineer. We need you to do this project for us, right? So I don't think it hurts for us to ask again, hey, we're ready for the employee survey to go out. We're requesting help from the marketing agency to do that, to do the social media and the flyer.
So do I need to, you think I should send her another email and just tell her, you know, we want a flyer, which will have a.
I think it would be better if we just treated this as a new item, since they're technically a new
Okay,
RFP approved vendor for the village
Yeah,
of
I'm
Angel.
going back into June and I'm not seeing voting and sending, so.
sending the employer survey or the request. for the
Employee,
Yeah.
Employee,
yes.
okay,
I think we've done everything on the employer,
Right.
other than the feedback.
all right,
I think we just, should send as a new.
okay. So then,
I think you're
yes,
right.
was there anything based on the feedback that we thought we would change from the employee survey? I think there was only just semantics of the way the questions were loaded because they were a little tricky.
Right.
Like that you had to absolutely answer something versus,
Or if you answered yes to this, you shouldn't have seen the next question, but it was
okay.
a minor trip up, not a
Okay.
complete rework.
Okay, so then if somebody will make a motion, number 1, to send the employee survey to council for approval.
make a motion to send the employee survey to council.
Okay, anybody second? Lori second, and everybody in favor?
I,
Aye, okay. All right, and then secondly, we need to make a motion to request funding for employee survey advertising. So.
Make a motion to ask council for funding for marketing for the employee survey.
Okay. Second, okay. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, make it up. Maya is here now. So Maya, I had you on my to-do list. So we were just talking about the employer results and we would like, someone at the resort to actually answer the survey. So if you could get with Sonia, I think it was.
I don't know.
Yes,
You were
okay,
talking, yeah.
okay. And Matt's gonna send us a fresh link just to make sure, so that if you, yeah, that's great, okay. Yeah, I got my to-do.
You're done already.
Okay, all right,
Person, may I add something?
yes.
On August 13th, the survey was presented to council and
Oh,
approved.
Okay.
The
Oh, okay.
employer or employee?
Employee.
Okay,
Oh,
Okay, great.
Okay.
so then it's just the spending that we
Just
need.
the spending that we need to
Okay.
get reapproval for. And then, once we get reapproval for that, then I can reach out to her and,
So what I had talked to her before, and again, this is in the before
Okay.
time, but we were using the trash pickup flyer that
Right,
she
as
had
an
generated as kind of the template.
right,
As well as the social media using that same image.
right,
I think at a minimum, we want to put the survey at Village Hall. We will need to approach, I believe it's the Rotary Club that controls the board over at the post office.
mhm,
So we will need to ask them for permission to put that flyer up. which is a fairly easy thing, especially if you just have the flyer in hand and say, hey, would you
Mhm.
mind putting this up for us? So
Okay.
are there other places that we think would be a good
I mean,
Alpine, Tree Valley.
Alpine, True Value?
yeah,
Okay,
the little gas station next door. I mean,
Okay.
there's a lot of people that pass through there and stop and look at the board, so.
got it.
And at the grocery store too, right? There's a little, there's
There's not one at Lowe's.
Oh, there's not.
I've tried to post our agendas there and stuff, and there isn't a place.
Okay.
Okay.
Where else do we post agendas and things that
We
are?
post agendas at the post office, Rockies, of course, here in our bulletin board, the community center, the fire station, the police department. In the community center, visitor center.
I think all those are great places.
So
Yeah,
basically everywhere that
Everywhere
Rocky goes. And
every Rocky would post that will also post in it and also at the other places that we mentioned, like at the post office, which you said post office. Okay.
yeah, and I would have a key to that glass, I've got approval to post things there. I wouldn't think there'd be a problem with putting another.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that should be, okay.
as village business.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, good.
I would
Okay.
assume the marketing firm is gonna do like some social media,
That was
promotion,
what we
right?
discussed last time, because yes, I haven't reviewed what their contract will be, but I'm assuming if it was like before, they were in charge of all social media postings that were not specifically, Rocky or some other governmental,
Right.
notice posting that we have to do.
And I think we'd ask him to post on Village of Angel Fire Facebook page.
Correct.
I don't know.
Visit Angel Fire.
Visit Angel Fire, what about like the Angel Fire locals only and, or maybe not those?
I mean, I think we'd leave it up to them as the marketing firm to
Okay.
decide where are we gonna get the most input here.
Okay.
Because we really would like to see, again, as manager, we were said when we stepped up, what we're hoping for is a large number, because
Right.
as I'll talk about here in a minute, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3,
Mhm.
these are all, how many people are we gonna need is, the bigger that number is, the more we need to be looking to phase 2 and 3 faster, so.
Okay, all right, great, okay.
Do we need to have like copies of the survey that they could just pick up like you?
We talked about in our original plan that we'd sent to council, we said we would, and that we would have, and then we would provide an envelope for them to return it. So we can do that if we need to. We wanted to keep it confidential in case they put their name on it and their income,
Sure,
that kind of
sure,
thing. So I don't know how we can still do that. But we would.
The QR code on the counter is a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, most
Put the
people,
flyer
Yeah,
on
I mean, that'd be great for True Value and Alpine, because I can tell people like, did you scan that yet?
Right.
Mhm. Okay, I mean, we can put our flyer, like, or, yeah.
yeah,
So, yeah, we'll get, I think all we need to do she'll generate the QR code, we just need to give her the link to the actual survey
Mhm.
when we're
Correct.
ready, so, okay. So, do we wanna try a little second? Do we need some revised feedback on the employee one, Matt, or what do you think? Just on the survey itself, just to make sure it's working before we. give
I'm
her
happy
the
to
link?
send it out again. If I recall, there are some things that like would be ideal to change, but the platform wasn't letting me do them. I think it's especially, or at least I could maybe it's user error. I couldn't figure out how to do it, but especially if it's like questions that are nested where you don't see question 4 until you answer question 3 a certain way or something like that. Some of those I couldn't change. Anyway, it's been long enough that I can't remember, and I'm happy
Yeah.
to send it out
Okay.
again.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. So if everybody Matt will send that out. Let's do another little quick test and just make sure that we've got the kinks worked out, and then we'll get that link to her after once we get when is the next council meeting?
so it's next Tuesday, so we're past, I think, getting it on there as an agenda item, or we still
You
can.
still can, we have to close the business on Wednesday.
Okay,
Okay.
so we can have this as an agenda item for the marketing spend.
Okay, all right, so let's be sure to put that.
Okay.
All right, okay, so next on the agenda is update from council. So lots of stuff lots of
So,
good
so
stuff.
lots of stuff. So, we are under contract for the dirt behind, Zeb/Alpine. We originally had a closing date of the 26th, which was last Thursday. We encountered some problems with the title company, nothing that's insurmountable, but there was some back and forth that didn't get answered. They were trying to treat us like a commercial business rather than a municipality, so there were some challenges there. So the closing date has been pushed into this week.
Okay.
Is my understanding, the mayor is gonna do that signing remotely. So the hope is by the end of this week, we will be past closing, we will have purchased that property. So
Okay.
thank you all very much for your help with that. The mayor has already put an RFP out to the survey here in town to begin the survey work on it. We're gonna need a survey to start staking things out, to start marking up. Wasn't necessarily the plan for this, but I went out 2 weeks ago with the mayor. My weeks are running together. The RV resort, the RV resort that the resort owns, set 5 tiny homes out there recently, which is getting more and more common, I think, in RV areas where you have part of the family that RV and part that doesn't, so they need a cabin to stay in. So we got to kind of look at those from 2 different perspectives. One was a price point. So these are smaller than anything that we've looked at. They were also cheaper. The resort shared costs with us on those. So we've asked our vendor on housing to see, hey, is there anything else out there? Cause you know, our 2-bed, 2-bath is still not really single person affordable. We're not sure we're gonna find one that is, but we had another vendor. So we said, here, go talk to these people and see if something can be found. The other thing we took away from that was the spacing between units. So kind of how they had laid them out. And obviously each site layout is specific to that site, but they had put about 17 feet between units and they were staggered.
Okay.
So you didn't impede window views and it was a very nice job was done. They look great. So one of the questions that's gonna be coming up is for this 4¼ acres. First question is, how many housing units are we actually gonna fit on this thing? That's gonna be looking for some input from you all, from council. Council really doesn't wanna see this turn into army barracks. We'd like for this to look neighborhood-like, so, you know, there's gonna be some open space, there may be some picnic tables. Director Epler back here is probably gonna get a pretty significant snowdrift fence, as well. So all of that is gonna start to take our 4¼ acres and squeeze
Bring
it
it,
down
sure.
to how many units we're actually gonna get. So, one of the things that I'm stuck in kind of a chicken and egg debate with is, I think it's probably time for us, or once closing date is passed, to have Manager Weir or somebody with the Village of Angel Fire start talking to our 77 employees, half of them that live out of town, or even the ones that live in town. If there was a housing available, and it's gonna look a little like this, I mean, we have the elevations, the rough floor plans. We don't have the cost dialed in yet, but we have a ballpark. So there's 2 things working here. How many can we fit? And how many is the village gonna gobble up immediately?
Sure.
Because I think right now, council is pretty well on board with filling the entirety of that 4¼
Okay.
Not doing 10 and seeing, but, you know, we probably aren't gonna get 60 to fit in that 4¼ but if we got 40, 45, somewhere in there, the question really then becomes, okay, of whatever that number is, how many end up not filled by the Village of Angel Fire? I think then we're gonna end up probably with some type of a lottery system that this committee, we're gonna have to work on, because if we only have 5 or 10 of these things that are not village occupied,
Right.
well, we already know from the brief results we surveyed that there's more demand than we're gonna be able to supply with phase 1. Another slight update there to that front. Council tied, just like you guys did, for those that didn't know in the beginning. We didn't end up with a vote right away because some of the council members liked the Zeb's lot because it was walkable. Some of them liked the 64 lot because it was in keeping. So
Right.
the same thing that happened here happened there. Some of you may know there were some comments made at that council meeting about a graveyard being out on the 64 lot. I won't get into all of that, but since that time, the owner of that lot has gone through and dug
I wondered what was
50
going on
holes
up
out
there.
there
There's like 20, there's like a lot of little piles.
and done title search back decades.
Okay.
Several of the council members liked that lot and I think would like to see us use that as phase 2. So I think there's gonna be support for that. So, because I think we're gonna come up short on our needs for phase 1, we're already starting to think about that lot as phase 2.
Yeah, I think the long-term strategy, it wouldn't hurt to go ahead and purchase a property
Correct.
extra because, I mean, as you saw, or if I recall correctly, when you went to go purchase the Zeb's property, someone came forward and said, I already put in an offer on that. So we
Correct.
don't want to run into that again, you know? so-
Correct. The other advantage to the 64 lot is the DOT lot quite near it will
Right.
be sold a couple of years from now, so that could potentially be a phase 3. So that's kind of where the dirt is going. The reason I think it's time to go to Manager Weir and start asking the question is, you know, whether we're gonna have Dennis Engineering or Santos, we're gonna ask somebody to start doing a preliminary lot layout with us. Director Epler is gonna have a lot of input there on how the roads are laid out, where the drift fencing is going. So we're gonna start to do some rough layout of this piece of dirt. And the big question left is, if we don't find a tiny home that we like, well, this is primarily gonna be 2-bed, 2 baths and some number of 3-bed, 2 baths.
Okay.
And that some number is, I think, an answer that Manager Weir could help us with.
Yeah,
Because if he comes back with 38 employees who are looking for housing, okay, well, how many of them are 2-2 and how many of them are 3-2? That's then gonna affect the layout, because the 3-2s are longer. So we're gonna fit fewer of them, the more 3-2s we end up with.
Okay.
So,
that sounds good. One thought that came to mind is, and we get this all the time. We do need to do a communication once that development starts out to like all the realtors in town, because the minute they start, we're gonna get every person on the planet's gonna call and see if they can buy one of them. You know, because they're small, they're cheap, you know, they're
Yep.
outside the resort, can we buy one? And so we need to have an official communication that the village puts out that says, this is what they're for, they're not for sale, they're not for rent, for vacation home, you know.
Right.
We need to kind of cover the key points. So that's something that maybe, I don't know who needs to work that, us or Manager Weir or somebody, but we need to think about that when that starts. And I know that's several months off,
sure.
but I'm already thinking of all the people that are gonna call me. to-
Well, but you're not wrong. I mean, the number of things that are gonna happen next. So we are still working forward with sustainability partners on the housing stock itself.
Mhm.
We're gonna have to modify some of our paperwork with them, because our scope of work with sustainability partners right now is all around the water meter project. So we're gonna have to modify, some work there. I have a meeting with you and MFA, I think, next week.
7th or the 8th, I forget which day.
7:30, I can't remember. So MFA got Rocky's response. What is that, round 2 or 3 now of
This
responses?
is round 2, and, you know, the good thing is that they're interested in our project.
Okay, oh,
And so they
great.
wanna talk to us in person to
Correct.
have a few questions answered, and so
Okay, good.
I'm glad you'll be there to help me with it.
Yeah, so that's gonna be moving quickly. What we would like to see is our contract get modified. If we can get money from MFA, fantastic. You know, we'll
Right.
keep doing that. But we need to be ready to do drawings and crank this site into engineering work, you know, late fall, early winter. We're probably going to need to order housing stock,
Mhm.
you know, sometime right after the first of the year, because this is, you know, $7 million plus of housing stock. So it's gonna take a while to build. They're gonna have to be staged deliveries. We're gonna have to allow time for the underground work, for the insulated chases, for everything to be done on site, so that when 10 units show up, they're ready to install the next week, 10 more, until it's done.
Right.
So there's a million little details that we've got to sort out, and it's great because we're coming into the perfect time of year to do all that back end work. To be ready to set housing next summer is still
Right.
the plan.
I think too, when we do the communication, we did talk about, one of the things we need to do is when those houses start coming in, is we need to have an application process. I know that the first priority is obviously gonna be
Yep.
local employees, but we still should have an application process so that we have all their info. And so we talked about doing an RFP for, a property manager
Well, yeah, so,
or employee,
yep.
so.
So the way the governance is written is either employer or we'd RFP it to a contractor.
Right.
One other thing that we did hear back from that is actually on next council week's agenda, so if you remember, we went without legal services for a while, where we were
Right.
changing lawyers as the attorney. The draft ordinance that you all reviewed and approved is finally back from legal,
Okay.
and we're getting ready to vote on that. I think it's on next week's
It
agenda,
is.
because we have to have that done for MFA, so that will be done next week. So we're hitting the milestones we need to, but there's just a lot of papers flying in many different directions.
So they have the ordinance, the next step was the governance, which was around who was eligible for workforce housing.
Correct.
And they haven't got to that yet?
That one's
Okay.
not done yet. I believe this was just the MFA
Okay,
template ordinance,
that
not
would
the
be the first
government.
priority anyway.
Yeah,
Okay.
but on this second round of the application, I did submit the charter or the the governance document that you guys came up with.
As a draft.
As a
Oh,
draft.
Okay,
Just to kind of,
yeah,
Cause
Keep in
we're
mind.
supplying, we're a government agency supplying another government agency,
Sure.
we're trying to check all the boxes we can.
Okay. so yeah, at some point, will we need to like vote to recommend to council to do the RFP for the property manager and, you know, for that whole evaluation, or are they doing that already, you think?
I don't know, I think the two biggest numbers we've gotta find are how many units can I fit and how many extra am I gonna have? Because the
Right.
village, I don't know that I've decided which way I prefer. If we could find a perfect person to be the
Mhm,
full-time employee that's there,
mhm,
and maybe they live out there too,
mhm.
I think there's some advantage. On the other hand, there are several well-run property management companies in town, so
Right,
I'm still kind of a coin flip on which way that
should go.
should go. But before I can really answer that question, I need to know, okay, how many units do I have?
Mhm.
Do we have any extra? Do we not? So I think that's really next steps, because it's gonna be some time. Cause if you remember the way that rents get set, it's how many are we ordering, right? What size of a volume discount are we gonna get? So we need the layout for that. So before we can do the layout, we kind of need a 3-2 mix.
Mhm.
So that, how many are we ordering? Is the Village of Angel Fire going to buy down the rent rates? Cause we can,
Mhm.
if we got extra money from MFA, this is all a slide rule on a financing deal,
Sure,
right? Like,
okay.
you slide it a little bit this way, rents come down, you slide it a lot, so I can't tell a village employee, hey, this 2-bedroom, 2-bath is gonna rent for $12.49 a month. I don't know that yet. I
Right.
think it's gonna be between $12.49 and $13.49, but that's a ballpark number, so.
Okay.
I guess the question is, will the village manager be comfortable enough with those numbers to go start asking employees? Would you be a tenant for this or not?
Mhm.
Because it's necessarily gonna affect how we lay the property out.
Okay,
So I think that's the next step, unless you guys have a different opinion or see another way to go about that. The survey results are great,
mhm.
but I feel like the village information is,
We gotta do that first.
we gotta do that first.
And then when we start, we realize that we are or are not gonna have extra units, like if we're gonna have extra units, then that's when we also do communication out to employers, employees saying, hey, here's our process. If you wanna apply, you know, for the extra units at some point in the future, you know,
Well-
we didn't, so that's not immediate need right now.
The other thing it does, and again, let's go through my hypothetical. Let's pretend that we end up with a number from Brett and we ask Santos to start laying out units based on this scale.
Mhm.
We ask Director Epler, where do you want the roads and fence? And we come up with, oh no, there's gonna be 35 units here and we have 37 employees at the village requesting housing.
Mhm.
Well, in that scenario, yeah, my recommendation is gonna be, we need to go back to council and say, go buy that lot on 64 tomorrow,
Right,
you
right,
know?
start there.
So that's kind of where we are.
Do you have a picture of what the modulars you're looking at?
Well, I have the spec sheet,
Okay.
which has the elevations, the floor plans. There were some.
Single story or?
Oh, yeah, these are single story, the 2-bedroom, 2-baths are about 800 square foot, they're long, 15 by something, whatever that works out to.
So they'll all be individual?
They'll all be individual, correct, single story, they are, the ones we've looked at right now they're on axles, they're mobile homes, they will be skirted, they will be all of that.
I did forward that. You forwarded that to me
I
and I forwarded it. to
Yeah, so you probably have it, there are some details on there, however, like, the vendor gave them to us with Galvalume roofs. Well, you can't do a Galvalume roof in the village of Angel Fire, so there you go. So there's some aesthetic details still to be worked out, primarily on the exterior. There's some interior trim decisions to be made about, you know, you wanna pay a little extra and get maybe a little more robust flooring material. Those kinds of decisions are still TBD.
Yeah, you definitely want a strong flooring material.
Yes.
And we still haven't
No carpet.
sourced any ones.
No.
Still not an option.
Um,
This vendor,
So sustainability partners, you have to think of them more of a financing agency. They have looked at three different modular manufacturers for us. The units out at the resort were Lancaster, and I hope I'm not betraying any confidences here, but my understanding is those units were $60,000 to $80,000 plus a $20,000 delivery fee. So you're still in that $80,000 to $100,000 range. So it may be that we could find, you know, something slightly cheaper, but I don't know if we're gonna find anything that's cheap enough to justify. I actually contacted them with, it's Lancaster Cabins is who the resort used out there. I've been on their website and I'm gonna encourage sustainability partners to go look as well. Because if there's something there that's in a smaller footprint, but nuts and bolts wise, that thing needs to be here and landed quite a bit under $100,000 to make any sense versus the 2.2. That's kind of how it was shaken out.
So a 1.1 would need to be under 100K
Correct.
to be worthwhile, yeah.
Right, and that's a purchase price number, because keep in mind, everything we're talking about here, the purchasing of the dirt, the infrastructure, the roads, all of that, if we get grant money, great, but if not, the Village of Angel Fire is basically treating that as a sunk cost. And then when we stack a home on top of that, we're taking that finance cost of the home and converting it to a rent number. But we're just considering the dirt and the infrastructure as cost of doing business, we're gonna eat that.
Right, it's not being factored in.
Correct, because it would inflate that rent to a number that's now no longer affordable.
Affordable.
Okay, all right, so anything else, any questions for? Okay,
So I'm meeting with a customer on Wednesday. He had mentioned he pretty much laid out the whole scheme of what we planned out. But he said he has a 1.1 A-frame thing that he stayed in that I believe is around 700 square feet.
Okay,
And if I remember correctly, the prices are very insignificant, but I'm gonna find out more details on that on Wednesday.
so yeah, if you have something, we would love to find a 1.1. I don't, so again, if whatever percentage of them in there, the bulk of them I think is gonna be 2.2s, just because it makes the most sense. There needs to be some 3.2s and some 1.1s would make sense at a small percentage, not too many, but we just haven't found one yet that pencil,
Right.
the numbers just didn't make sense.
Cause I
So,
mean, and I just, for laborers on the construction end,
Yep.
that seems like a very good
yep,
way.
okay. All right, great. Okay, so we only have about 15 minutes left, so the next two items, I think we'll just quickly. I don't think we can get into details, but we might set up, I think I'm gonna vote to set up a work session to actually work them both, but I wanted to give you a little bit of input, a little bit of feedback on the comprehensive plan.
so
Go ahead.
just one thing here, and
Sure.
Rocky will tell me if I'm doing this wrong, I hope.
Okay.
But, documents like this, the templates that we're looking at, dark sky ordinance, anytime something like this has been presented, they tend to do a lot of things via email, back and forth, because what we're looking for is every one of our committees is gonna end up with a charter document to outline the purpose of that committee. That's the last item on the agenda, and then the comprehensive plan. So if it's legally allowable, letting you all back and forth these two, oh, I don't like this, or I don't like this,
Mhm.
in an email, it still has to come to an official meeting for a vote.
Sure.
But doing document review like this, instead of dragging you all in person and making you redline things, if you all are comfortable with that, is a quick way to do it. So, and I bring it up because they've been taking ordinances from Albuquerque and Los Alamos
Mhm.
and cutting and pasting and doing that between meetings, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, we can do some of that. I think the one thing that's difficult is when we get a lot of feedback via email, we end up kind of losing sight. Somebody's comments don't get captured, et cetera.
Yep,
So I don't mind having a work session. We can start with that, but then I feel like we do need to come together with a work session to make sure we're good. So, okay, so back to the comprehensive plan. So the comprehensive plan committee invited all of the other committee leads to a meeting a while back and just talked through kind of what their purpose was, et cetera. And they presented a filled out template, which is similar to what you've got in front of you that has the red in it. That is talking about, what are your primary challenges in existing conditions and recommended actions, et cetera. And this is not meant to be in the weeds detail. It's supposed to be, they want 30,000 feet. I would prefer something more like 10,000 or 5,000 feet. But, for it to actually be at some point actionable. But they want us to give this information so they can feed it back into the comprehensive plan because they're really trying to update that and move it forward. So originally, I thought at the meeting they wanted this by the end of October, but the email that she sent out said something around they would like it they want it kind of finalized by February.
Oh.
My husband read it, he thought they wanted something by the first draft by end of December. I don't know if anybody, but
So-
anyway, so we need to think about this and work through this. And so if anybody, this would be a great one to kind of, can you send me your ideas, and then we can kind of pull all those together and then, kind of put it, I'll combine all the ideas
Okay.
in for that, and then we can come together and talk
So
about
if we
that.
each send you an
Yeah.
email individually.
Yeah.
Hey, here's my thoughts.
Here's my thoughts, yeah, so, yeah, I think that's good, and, this is a lot, they added some more info here, like this action committee title, input for comprehensive plan, I don't remember that being part of the discussion, but let's take a look at it and see what we can do there. And then, of course, the committee charter, so when we very first started, I don't know if everybody remembers, we did ask, do we need a committee charter? And the answer was, maybe not at this point in time. I talked to Santos, I think about it. And because one of the committees did have a committee charter, but the primary reason for that committee charter was to define how long you could be on the dang committee before you.
Well, there's a few different
Without
goals here.
attending before you got ousted.
Yeah, so some of it was members of the committee, some of it was, I think when they went back and looked at the Trails Committee, it had previously had a charter. And so they found it in all the previous work they've done, which they're working on extending, so it was hey, this is a good idea.
Yeah.
And just to define the goals of a committee to keep
Yeah.
focused.
So I think if we look at that, so Lori has provided us with something that she drafted up a while back. And then if we take this and we look at it compared to the template that you sent, because there are some different categories there, we can kind of translate some of this into that. One thing I want to make sure that I was kind of reading, just a real quick note, that, what we as a committee have been doing is kind of the periphery work around the workforce housing, and really the council and planning and zoning and the village employees are doing the heavy lifting about working with developers and stuff like that. So I just want to make sure that we, in our charter, we say that it's more like we're doing the support work or whatever around that, because we're not actually working with the developers, and we're not actually gonna, you know what I mean? We're doing that periphery work, like the surveys, like the, maybe recommending some things for the RFP, like the governance and the ordinance. That's the kind of stuff I think we need to make sure we're saying here, and the application process, making sure that, we have the how things for exceptions, et cetera, are gonna be handled. So if we want to, we can start with this, and if anybody wants to give their feedback via email, we can do that. And then at some point, I think we should, is there a deadline for this or no?
No, there is not. All committees are being asked to do it, but this request has just happened within the last month or so, so there's still some time.
So we can kind of set a goal. I mean, obviously, we need a goal for the first draft of this comprehensive plan input by the end of December. And then for the committee charter would, it just depends on how fast we can get it done. And is there an approval process for the charter?
So, it will look like anything else you're sending to council. You guys will vote on it here, elevate it to council. It will then be adopted by council, just like seating a new member would be.
Okay,
But it's documenting a process that just has never been over the years of the purpose, the members, the goals, all of that written down somewhere. So that, if council changes or a committee member changes, you've got something to hand to a new member and say, here's our task.
okay.
One
So-
thing, can I add something to that charter?
Please.
Is that, one thing to keep in mind when you're creating this charter is this is to be used as a communication to the public as well,
Okay,
to inform them, what is this committee doing?
okay,
You know,
perfect, yeah, that's
And
good.
we don't really have a mechanism. Sometimes we have a full agenda of committees that want to report at a council meeting, and sometimes we don't have anybody. And I think the council wants to maybe at least report once a month.
Okay.
And this charter will help to keep, not only keep you on track, but also communicate to the public.
And that's why I put the vision of the committee.
So Lori, would you mind taking the action item to take what you've written and kind of fit that into the template that he's provided, because I think there's some additional categories there, and then send that out as a first draft, another first draft to the team, and then we can feedback.
change it, I don't have. that.
Oh, okay.
I don't have that word program.
Oh, word, okay, yeah, sure.
Oh, okay, sure, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, shoot it to me and then I'll send it to everybody.
Okay,
Yeah, you have, she has a program that, so everybody can just.
Microsoft Word,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, I've got that too, okay, all right, so. Okay, so then, so that will be our action items for that. I'll send out a reminder with the template and ask people for feedback on the comprehensive plan charter. And Lori / Megan are gonna work on getting the draft that Lori had put together on the charter into the council's recommended
Format.
templates, okay? And then we will collect some input from that, and then, the other action items that I just wanna make sure we capture before we leave was Maya's gonna talk to Sophia. Josh was gonna talk to Yasmin about the employer survey, or Yasmin's husband. And Jake, you're gonna handle the hardware stores and Lowe's.
Correct.
And Matt or Jake are gonna follow with Brett to send out the reminder on the employer, give them, I don't know, what do you think, a week or 2 weeks? We're probably,
I would give him 2 weeks.
okay,
Do you need Brett for anything on that, Matt? Or do you just have to send out a reminder email? Is there?
I think I
tool?
can do it.
okay. All right, so let's do that, give them 2 weeks to respond.
And then you will have to fill out the form for Rocky to make an agenda item for next week's council member for the spending on
Okay,
marketing the employee survey.
so Elizabeth, fill out form, okay.
And if you want a, work session,
Oh, yeah, and then if we.
identify what date you want. for that.
Okay, so I think we've got, it's gonna be a couple weeks before we get any results, and again, we're gonna, the only other thing, before we talk about work session, is the employee survey, that was approved. So the other action item is Matt was gonna send out the link again for us to do a final test. And then we will need, and then,
So the way that's going out, because keep in mind, unlike the employer survey, we're not emailing that survey out.
Right,
It is
right.
all being done by the QR code and physical marketing.
right, we just wanna test it to make sure we got the
Correct.
kinks worked out. So-
And Rocky has already indicated, we've already had the employee survey approved by council, it just
Right.
hasn't gone anywhere yet.
So the other thing we're waiting on is just the reapproval of the funds, and once we get the funds done, then we'll move forward with.
Yeah, once
having
Carista
her
is
do
ready
the
to
draft.
go,
Yeah,
they'll be the ones to put that survey out into the world.
okay, and then do we want to set a target date? I guess we need to wait. So the council meeting is next Tuesday, right? The
5:30?
8th at 5:30, okay, so I'll get that ready. Okay, so that's mine, and then, okay, work session, so we have a couple of templates to work on. I have to say, again, I'm gonna be, and I don't have to be here, you have a
Vice Chair.
vice chair. I'm leaving town on the 17th and, I will be gone through. My calendar says through the 11th, and then I'm gone again on the 15th, so I'm literally gone like a month, starting the 17th. So I don't know if we really will make a lot of progress between now and the 17th, I mean, I'm happy to have a meeting before then, or we can,
Well, here's what I think is gonna happen, to help dictate kind of the timing of the next meeting. Let's see what Manager Weir has to say about going to the employees first.
okay,
We will have closed on the lot, we will have had a survey, and we will start developing the layouts for the lot, at least the preliminary layouts. I think it would make sense to have those documents in hand before we have our next meeting.
mhm,
So if we have 2 or 3 weeks of working on these templates in the background, come back for a meeting to start meeting or work session, whatever it needs to be.
mhm.
But let's let some of that real estate process, survey, site plan go forth, because we're definitely gonna be looking for input from you all on that.
So we could set. Well, that's nothing. Okay, we could set like a work session like on
14th.
the 14th, which would be 2 weeks from today, and
That
14th or
is,
15th,
that is a holiday. I think it's a government holiday.
Oh,
Columbus
Oh,
Day.
Yeah.
So we could do the 15th if that date is not,
the 15th is actually a good day. I was hoping you picked that.
okay, just for a work session to kind of go over the input on these templates, and then maybe another quick update on the employer, so we can maybe decide, so that we can discuss what our agenda will be for that other meeting.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll do that. And then, you know, then we start getting into holidays and things like that, but, the 12th through the 14th. I think I get back in town on the 3rd and I leave on the 6th. So I have 2 days in there, November, yeah, so. But sometimes it's hard to think about. Anyway, well, let's just start with the 15th. Let's do that.
And we can set a date at that point.
And then if we need to do something before I get back, then Josh will take over and go forward from there, and that's great. So. Okay, so anything else?
Great work. I think your survey responses come at a great time. The fact that you guys are gonna be meeting with MFA and you've got some preliminary data to actually show that there is a genuine demand, while you're asking for $2.7 million, I think that's a great timing for these results to come back in. So. And it doesn't sound like we need 10 units.
No.
Yeah, so the resort needs how many right now, currently 60 or 75?
50 is the number I think that Manager Weir threw out, that's been historically, I mean, it's a
Right, yeah,
ballpark,
that's
that's
just
not a,
Given.
Correct.
So then there's 50 there, and then a lot of what was on the survey we did was more trade, I guess.
it was restaurants, it was cleaning companies, it was, I mean, it was kind of a smattering of everything, so.
200, right, is what went out,
I think that's right.
yeah.
I think that's right.
And that's another 50 at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us expect that phase one is gonna be nearly enough
Mhm.
to accomplish what this charter is gonna end up as. That the likelihood that we move on to even just purchasing the dirt for phase two sooner rather than later is looking pretty good.
There was another property came on the market, I can't remember what it was, on the highway, I'll have to look it up, maybe I'll send it to you.
So we'll keep looking at the dirt, you know, if that's what it needs to be, then, you know, it won't be hard for us to review that lot again. We already did it once, and so if we can find a second one to compare it against, great, but, I think the lot on 64, now that it's been dug up,
Well, I thought, what's going on there, it's like.
Well,
somebody's
now we
starting
know
to-
what the dirt really
Yes.
looks like.
Now we
on
know
that
what it
lot,
looks
so.
Yeah, so they're trying to do their process, due diligence, to see
Yeah.
if there actually are any grave sites out there.
correct.
Goodness.
Yay.
Yeah, cause that would be an adverse material fact that they might have to
Right.
disclose, you know, so.
And like I said, my understanding is the title search back decades and decades found nothing.
Mhm.
The holes, they actually requested somebody from the village of Angel Fire go out and look, and rather than sending code enforcement, our new chief of police went out on body camera and
Mhm.
leaned over a bunch of holes, and there we are, so, I think the comfort level that there's not a graveyard out there has gone up substantially, so.
Do you think there's any property on 64, the proximity of the house and the challenges of trying to get a permanent house really amplify the need for this committee to keep doing the work that it's doing? That I think that you're addressing the immediate needs for village employees, but from perspective of looking in the valley and across the mountain, it's not a limited issue. And the way Taos is running right now is just me personally, if you just read how hard it is just to get anything moving in Taos, to make this, to make this 21-mile commute right off 64, seems doable for a lot of people.
Well, and I think the upside of that, not only from Taos, but if that's there, if there's an employee in Taos right now, maybe they wanna come over here and be an employee at
Right,
the village or one of our businesses in town and live on this side and reverse commute to Taos when they need to go over there for things.
That's not in our governance yet to improve employees without businesses, employees of companies outside of Angel Fire that don't have a local thing, but that's certainly could be an amended item,
Definitely.
especially because then it just adds more people to our community who are gonna spend dollars here anyway, so.
Did you see that Kit Carson is
Just
one of the
think like
finalists for the 95?
What's that?
$1 million green hydrogen plant?
I did see that, yeah, I saw that. in the meeting.
It could impact us too, because the
Right.
amount of people that'll be out here.
For sure.
on it.
Okay, so I think we're on schedule here, so
Perfect.
meeting adjourned?
Great.
All right,